while he's not breaking down the Lions postseason opportunities, he's very much looking at the Walleye postseason opportunities now as Toledo. They got out of that funk, and all of a sudden we're seeing what we're expecting out of the Walleye.
You know, it's something we've been talking about, Mark, I think. And you know, everybody goes up and down over the course of the season. You're only as good as your roster sometimes. And, you know, Toledo's had some players down now from the American Hockey League that have certainly influxed into the roster and done a nice job there. They're getting the solid goaltending right now. And, you know, now all of a sudden you play a team that's struggling. You go down there, you know what, those can be dangerous.
Absolutely.
Because they're a team that's trying to get better and playing very hard, and they did in all three of those games. But Toledo did what they needed to do, go take care of business. Now all of a sudden you got a good month going. You can finish the month out strong. Now you have a good month and you can catapult yourself into the new year.
Yeah, the 3 wins against Norfolk. Norfolk only has 9 points on the season, but the way the Walleye were playing just a few weeks ago, you need to get wins any way you can. They've started to stack some points. You talk about some of those new acquisitions. Andrew Sturt's one of those guys they got from Orlando who's made an impact.
He certainly has had another goal over that stretch, and you know, you mentioned the Lions earlier. Confidence can can breed into wins. Toledo's got some confidence going right now, and it shows out on the ice, and it stems a lot from what they're getting on their back end right now. And we're talking about those goaltenders, Sebastian Kosa, John Letherman. Let's go back and look at those games. We're talking about the 6-game stretch. John Letherman's played very well in that stretch. Sebastian Kosa, you know, it turned in a great performance against the Indy Fuel at home in a 4-1 win against one of the top scoring teams in the league. And then he played very well in the 2 starts that he had down in Virginia. And John Letherman, that start that he had Friday night, I mean, he gave up 2 goals. One of them should not have counted.
Right.
100%. That net's off. I don't care if the rule is that if the net is dislodged by the goalie, they can still count it if it goes. He's trying to use the post to push off. He's not knocking the net off to stop play. So forget that. And then, but his play in the third period was phenomenal. He was the best player on the ice in the third period of that game. As you mentioned, the Admirals, even though they don't have a lot of points, they pressured Toledo in that third period to try to tie that game in the 1-goal score. When you get that kind of goaltending, that can lead to confidence offensively and defensively, and boom, all of a sudden you start getting wins.
Between Kosa and Letherman, in fact, just a logjam of good prospect goalies in the Red Wings organization. That meant the Walleye had to do something this past week. They had to say goodbye to Max Milosik, and he was a very important goalie. His stats maybe weren't necessarily, when you look at games played and all that, but he was extremely important last year, and you could see how much he meant to this team, the way that there was an outpouring of emotions when they had to say goodbye.
Yeah, and eventually it was probably going to happen. It just depends on, you know, how long you're going to see goalies, and there's just a logjam right now in the Detroit system. They got a lot of goaltenders. They have one more than they probably have teams to place them all and get them all constant playing time. So between Kosa and Letherman, you can only hold on to a player so long on a third goalie. And I know you want to, because you're right, Max Milosik, well-liked. He was phenomenal last January when they needed him. Remember, he was the only goalie they had for a while there in January this past year, and he came through for them. Right now, Detroit, they want to look at Kosa heavily. They want Letherman to play. Those guys got to get the net.
Walleye only 1 game this week. They're home on a Friday, so they've been very busy. You finally get a little bit of rest and get that home game Friday, and then next week the schedule picks up back again. But Friday's going to be a nice game at home.
Yeah, it will be, Mark. You're going against the Wheeling Nailers team that, you know, Toledo is not all that great against. 2-3-1 so far on the year, so a chance to get them at home. Let's see what Toledo can do with them. Try to get a win, springboard you into those 3 days that are mandatory off by the league, the 24th, 25th, 26th for Toledo, and then you start a 4-5 right out of that. 2 of those games, though, luckily at home for the Walleye, including a tough matchup right after the Christmas break with the Newfoundland Growlers.
Yeah, Walleye still have some bad blood with Newfoundland from the Kelly Cup Finals back in 2019. That seems so long ago.
It does. It feels like a lot of days have passed between those times and now.
Yeah, it's amazing how a pandemic can do that to us all. Matt Melzak from the Walleye, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mark.